So this is the second part of a two-part series where we went to the giant Ukrainian radio telescope. So a couple members of the science club I visited in an earlier episode, they took me to all kinds of very interesting places through Kharkiv. And here, this is this just gigantic radio telescope. It's shaped kind of like a plus, but it goes for 2 kilometers in each direction. So it's watching the universe by detecting radio waves. And so in this episode, Sergey is going to show us all the old, like, kind of 1960s sci-fi looking Soviet equipment to me, which is really fascinating. And like, it really just looks like it's out of a sci-fi movie. And then we're going to go, there's tunnels going for 2 kilometers in each direction under the radio telescope. And Sergey is going to take us there. And it's really kind of spooky and strange. Like, you can actually electrocute yourself down there if you touch the wrong thing. And there's people try to get under there and steal equipment. Sometimes some crazy animal gets there and eats some stuff that's stored. And it's, to me, just a really interesting thing. So Sergey is going to explain how all this stuff works. And that's going to be the main focus of the episode. I'm going to kind of take a bit of a backseat to that.
So you see the huge area of these antennas, is all of them makes a huge UTR-2 radio telescope, Ukrainian T-shaped radio telescope Model 2, which receive cosmic signals from all over the universe, and we study the universe with radio waves.
Oh, he's purring.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
he
so
likes
cute.
attention.
So please come inside. This is an old part of UTR-2 radio telescope, and this is mostly a museum. It was the receiving equipment in 1970s and 1980s. These are Soviet military receivers that were used for this radio telescope, and you see 30 of them of each set of receivers for this radio telescope. They were used, but now they're switched off. We have new generation of receivers, but they still here for purposes of museum or something like that. So let's go with me. The part here is still in operation with this control unit. You see the whole control unit of this radio telescope. I've told you you have to switch cables to switch the point of view of this radio telescope. So you can do it manually with this control unit. You have switchers here, and knowing the direction you want and knowing the special code, you can switch this radio telescope to see any point on the sky. So this was a person who switched these switchers and pointed the radio telescope. But now it is done with computer, but when you want to test the radio telescope, it is very useful to switch manually and to feel the radio telescope.
I have no idea what any of these things mean.
Yeah, sure. Some of them I don't know.
We have powers of 2 there.
Yeah.
Up
Yes,
to
powers of 2.
1024.
Actually, this is binary code that steers the radio telescope. It helps to control the beam of radio telescope. So these are two dimensions, U and V. So V is from north to south, and U is from east to west. So you can steer the beam of radio telescope into coordinates. Another interesting stuff here is this shelf. Actually, it looks like ordinary shelf, but it can allow us to make 5 beams of radio telescope. Usually antenna have single radiation pattern, single beam, but this shelf allows to make 5 of them. So I can open it and you'll see the schematic here. It's actually rather old. It operates from 1970s, but it's still in operation and is operated very well. So you can see the complexity of this stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's only the upper layer here. Okay, so we can continue. When we measure some quantities, we want to calibrate them, so it's a measuring equipment. To calibrate them, we have special generator that gives us the calibration signal, and this signal helps us to measure more precisely, more correctly the signals we receive from the sky. So actually we can measure power flux density more precisely using this generator. We for sure have some system that controls our antenna and prevents anybody to go there, because there were some tries to steal our antennas and equipment beneath, so we have a security system that prevents people to go there. Now I switched it off, and we can proceed here. This is the system that helps to be sure that any part of this antenna works properly. So you can see all properties of these antennas all over the field with this equipment. It is very old, but still it is in operation. You can see it. And we have plans to modernize it, but it's not the first our priority. We modernize firstly the receiving system, and I'll show you the receiving system a bit later. Здравствуйте, Паша. Паша, это Bill из Соединенных Штатов. Паша, our antenna technical staff. Okay, so let's go downstairs, but be careful, don't touch anything because it could be under the voltage.
Okay.
Maybe you should stay for a while, wait for Serge will turn on the light.
Okay, I'll turn on the light.
Yeah, good idea.
This is all the light we have, and it's not working stable,
Okay, so you can come.
but it is
But
This is very steep.
It's
Yeah.
steep, yeah, be careful.
Oh.
Maybe you will make it pause.
I think especially in winter it's a little bit more precarious, but it's my shoes.
Actually, the temperature is stable here for whole the year.
I mean that I might have ice on my shoes.
Ah, yeah, sure. So now we are beneath the main building. These are power supply units of the whole radio telescope. They give power to all the devices in the tunnels and here. So there are many cables you see here, and all of them are used. Most of them are used actually. This is the high voltage that supplies, so you see 380 volts. So be careful here, don't touch anything. It's not a joke.
Yeah.
And these are the heart of the radio telescope. Signals from all antennas are added in special devices. I've told you the switching cables devices, and then added. And 12 signals from all sections of radio telescope come here, and they being amplified. This is high frequency amplifiers. They are specially developed for this radio telescope. It's a real scientific job to develop such amplifiers. It's not ordinary amplifiers. For example, these cases were for amplifiers of 1970s, and this is the amplifiers of 1990s and 200s. So you see the dimensions, and you see these amplifiers are much better than this. Actually, they are optimal now. We can replace them, but make them much better than now. It's almost impossible for this radio telescope. They are optimal. And I've told you that to switch beam of radio telescope from one source to another, you need cables. And when you switch near, you have cables not very long. But when you switch antenna that are 1 kilometer long there and 1 kilometer long there, you need long cables. And these are the cables. So these are not cables stored just on the corner. The cables where the signal propagate and wait for another signal to come to another antenna and to be added correctly in phase. So do you understand the principle? Okay. So these are phase shifters, as we call it. So we add some lengths to the signal paths and add these signals. And from here, these signals come to receivers, the modern receivers. I'll show you a bit later. And now we can proceed to some of the underground tunnels, some of the antennas. Each tunnel is 1 kilometer long. So we can switch on the light. And you can see this tunnel.
Oh wow.
be careful, and especially your head, because there are some wires ahead of you. I didn't take a torchlight. Anyway, we can walk a little here.
Yeah, more comfortable that you have that flashlight, at least.
Yeah, sure. Be careful of these cables.
Yeah. A lot of dangerous things down here.
Sure.
Well, I was about to ask if you could jog on this in the winter, but it's probably not a good idea. That's-
Okay, so actually, it looks like here any part of this cable tunnel. Let's stop here. So signals from antennas above us come through these cables. They came to these phase shifters. It's also small phase shifters where parts of cables are stored and switched by the signals from this control unit. The signals comes here. Signals from antenna comes here, and then being added, they come to another level of phase shifting and Herborn principle here. Do you understand Herborn? Okay, so signals from 6 antennas in a row are being phased and added, then signals from several rows being phased and added, and so on and so on. And on the output of the telescope, we have signals from 12 sections of this radio telescope. So all these devices can be tested from outside. These devices help to perform the check, and these are also special amplifiers to amplify the signal, because the signal has strong losses in these cables. To amplify it, to preserve the signal-to-noise ratio of these signals, so we need such an amplifiers on each stage of phase shifting. So this all about the principle of operation of this radio telescope. You see these tunnels. They are not very well perspective. They are not very well repaired, but actually we go here only if something is broken, if something needs repairing. Usually people do not go here. Everything operates without people. But sometimes we need to check the parameters, to measure the parameters of this equipment, so we go here and measure it. And there are some funny stories. You go here, you want to measure something, you can forget some equipment, and you had to go 1 kilometer there. You remember that you forget something, you go 1 kilometer there, and so on and so on. So it's very difficult to work here. Sometimes you take some equipment, go to measure something, and the power switch off the whole area.
Oh,
so
no.
it's very difficult to get off from there. There were some tries to get this. I don't know how to say it. Not robbery, but steal this equipment by other people. So they came here and steal some equipment. We've soldered the entrance there, so it was impossible to get there. They tried to demolish these walls and get here, and sometime they had still the 1/12th part of this radio telescope. So it was very difficult. It was in 1990s, and scientists for their own money refurbished this radio telescope.
Oh, wow.
Made new equipment. It was very difficult, so they had to work in at other works to get money to make this new equipment. Actually, our staff plants a bit of vegetables in summer to feed us in winter, and to store these vegetables we have such a storage underneath. So these are some vegetables here and some pickles you can see from here. So they are stored beneath the earth to preserve them.
Under the telescope, right?
Yeah, so actually we use our tunnels and for storage of vegetables as well.
Just so everyone can kind of see, we have this going another kilometer in that direction.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's amazing.
And sometimes some pets like foxes can get here and try to steal some.
Oh, you can find
vegetables.
foxes in here.
Yeah,
Really?
sometimes.
Oh wow, wow. And then on the way back, we have this area with the water and a bridge because it's flooded slightly. Can't see this too well, but there's this bridge I'm walking on and there's a puddle of water. It's a little...
It's not too deep, but it is the lowest point of these tunnels, and water usually goes here. We pump it, but anyway, it goes here. It is impossible to pump all the water from the field. So. Okay, all that bulky receivers in that great hall now are replaced with modern receivers. These computers are actually the radio astronomy receivers. The receiver part is here near the CD-ROM. Actually, this receiver is developed as well as in our institute. So it's Ukrainian receiver, but it's one of the best in the world for these purposes. These are receivers that receive all the signals from this antenna, store them, make fast Fourier transform, so we can see actual signals now on the screen. You see the signal from the sky. These signals are actually the signals from radio stations, that's vertical lines, and these signals is the background emission from our sky actually. If, for example, sun becomes active and something goes wrong and there is a burst on the sun, so you can see this level will increase significantly. But now we look, I don't know where do we look now, and we see the background of our sky here.
We look at the pulsar.
Oh, now we are looking to the pulsar, but unfortunately pulsars are very weak, so we can't see them directly on the screen without further pre-processing. We can maybe somehow switch the receiver to see them, but it's very difficult. It's better to store the data of these pulsars and then process them. It takes much time. The data rate of these receivers is very high. We can fill the 3 terabyte hard disk for several hours. So we have a bunch of these hard disk drives here. We record the signals here and then come to our institute to Kharkiv and process them with our computers. We have as well some computers here to process data, and we can control the GRT radio telescope from these computers as well.
All right, so I found that to be really, really interesting when I went there, and I was really, really glad I got to see that place. So I think I'm going to start. I'm in Warsaw at the moment, but I'm actually on my way to Albania for vacation. So as I post this, I'm probably going to be in Albania. So I might try to post some videos from there next before I continue with the stuff from Kharkiv. But there is a lot more from Kharkiv. I do a lot more with some other people that I met at the Science Club Orbital. And so be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share if you want to see more. Hit the bell notifications so you know when I posted a new video. And I promise there'll just be many, many, many other crazy stuff in Kharkiv. And I'm going to try to go to Ukraine again a little bit later in the summer, and hopefully I can get some more good stuff there too.